Hello everyone, my name is Rani. I'm, my roll number is 22955805515. I'm studying at Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. Today I'm going to give presentation on JDBC connectivity and JDBC components. So contents are introduction, JDBC, steps to connectivity, components of JDBC, and conclusion. Introduction. JDBC or Java Database Connectivity is a Java API. API is nothing but the interface between two softwares or websites, we can say applications, between two applications. So it intercommunicates between the two applications. So here JDBC or Java Database Connectivity is a Java API to connect and execute the query with the database. So it connects the database and Java program to do some specific task. It is a specification from Sun Microsystems that provides a standard abstraction API or protocol for Java applications to communicate with various databases. So normally JDBC is nothing but it is a API. It is used to communicate with the Java programs and to do specific tasks. It provides a language with Java database connectivity standards. It is used to write programs required to access database. JDBC. So let's see in detail about JDBC. Definition of JDBC, that is Java Database Connectivity. JDBC is an API. API in the sense application programming interface used in Java programming to interact with the databases. JDBC along with the database driver can access database and spreadsheets. The enterprise data stored in a relational database can be accessed with the help of JDBC APIs. So in general, JDBC data is stored in the form of relational database. Relational database in the sense of tables, which is rows and columns. The data is stored in the form of rows and columns, so which can be accessed, which can be retrieved at any of the time by using JDBC API, which will be connected to Java and to the database. It is the connectivity between the Java program and database to execute the specific query which is in the relational database. Okay, the classes and interfaces of JDBC allows the application to send requests made by the user to a specified database. So JDBC have some classes and interfaces which allow the application to send requests made by the users to a specified database. Steps to connect JDBC. So there are at least 6 to 7 steps to connect the Java program and database. So let's see. First step is to import the packages. Second is to load the drivers using the for name method. Third one is register the drivers using driver manager. Fourth one is establish the connection using the connection class object. And fifth one is create a statement. And sixth one is execute the query. And the last one is to close the connection. Import the packages. So we can import the packages from import java.sql.star and loading the drivers. In order to begin with you first need to load the driver or register it before using it in the program. You can register a driver in one of two ways mentioned below as follows. So there are two ways to load the registers, that is load the drivers. Okay, that is class.forName or driver manager register driver. So let's see first one, class.forName. Here we load the drivers class into memory at the runtime. No need of using new or create objects. The following example uses class.forName to load the Oracle driver as shown below as follows. So here Oracle driver is used. So let's see the example. Class.forName oracle.jdbc.driver.oracle driver. So here we are loading the Oracle driver using the class.forName method, which is simple. And next is driver manager.register driver. Driver manager is a Java inbuilt class which is with a static member register. Here we call the constructor of the driver class at the compile time. So class.forName method is executed at the runtime. The drivers are loaded at the runtime, but coming to driver manager.register driver method, we are loading it in the compile time. The following example uses driver manager dot register driver to register the Oracle driver or as shown below. Driver manager dot register driver new Oracle dot JDBC dot driver dot Oracle driver. Here we are creating the object which is called to the register driver as object. So the third step is establish a connection using the connection class object. Connection con is equals to driver manager dot get connection URL user password. So this is the syntax for creating the connection. So username from which your SQL command prompt can be accessed, and password from which the SQL command prompt can be accessed, and con it is a reference to the connection interface, and URL uniform resource locator which is used as shown below. So string URL is equals to JDBC Oracle thin driver. They are using thin driver with a local host 1521xe. So the connection object contains a four parameters: URL, con, and password, and user. Con in the sense connection object, connection reference. And where Oracle is the database used, thin is the driver used, and localhost is the API address where a database is stored, and 1521 is a port number, and xe is the service provider. Next, create a statement. Once a connection is established, you can interact with the database. The JDBC statement, callable statement, and prepared interfaces define the methods that enable you to send SQL commands and receive data from your database. So there are like the three statements, like callable statement, prepared statement, and JDBC statements. So we are using just a normal statement, that is JDBC statement. Use of JDBC statement is as follows. Statement st is equals to con dot create statement. Here con is a reference to connection interface used in the previous step. So we are using that previous step connection object and initializing the statement object, creating the statement object and initializing to it. Fourth step is creating statement, right? Yeah. Fifth step is execute the query. Now comes the most important part, executing the query. The query here is an SQL query. SQL in the sense structured query language. Okay. Now we know we can have multiple types of queries. Some of them are as follows: the query for updating, inserting a table in a database, or the query for retrieving data. The execute query method of the statement interface is used to execute queries of retrieving values from the database. So here we are using execute query method, which is to retrieve the values from the database. This method returns the object of results that can be used to get all the records of a table. So this method returns the records of the table. The execute update SQL query method of statement interface is used to execute queries of updating, inserting. So let's see the simple pseudocode for it. Int m is equals to st.execute update SQL. If m equals to 1, press system.out.println inserted successfully. Else, if it is not inserted, then it will come insertion failed. So it gives that how many of statements are executed, means updated. Okay, closing the connection. The last step is closing. It is very important to close the connection when we are using the database, when we are connecting the database, when we are creating the connection, we should also close the connections. So finally we have to send the data to the specified location, and now we are on the verge of completing our task. By closing the connection, objects of statements and result set will be closed automatically. The close method of the connection interface is used to close the connection. It is shown below as follows: con.close. Con is the object of creation of connection, which is used here to close that connection. If we close this connection, then result statement object also closes automatically. And let's see the JDBC components. JDBC has 4 main components that are used to connect with the database as follows: JDBC API, JDBC application programming interface, and JDBC driver manager, That is two tabs we have discussed before, class dot file name, or we can use driver manager dot register driver, or JDBC test suite, JDBC ODBC bridge drivers. So let's see first one, JDBC API. JDBC API is a collection of various classes, methods, and interface for easy communication with the database. JDBC API provides two different packages to connect with database with different database, like java.sql.star semicolon or javax.sql.star semicolon. So driver manager, JDBC driver manager. JDBC driver manager is a class in JDBC API that loads a database specific driver in Java application and establishes a connection with the database. So mm, we have different types of drivers like thin drivers, native driver, in such a way ODBC, JDBC drivers. Okay, we have different types of drivers to for using that we are going to connect the database. Driver manager makes a call to specific database to process the user request. JDBC test suite. JDBC test suite is used to test operation being performed on database using JDBC drivers. So it is used to test the operation being performed on database using JDBC drivers. JDBC test suite tests operations such as insertion, updating, and deletion. So it just tests the operations which you are performing, like insertion, updating, deletion, removing, drop, in such a way. JDBC ODBC bridge drivers. As the name suggests, JDBC ODBC bridge drivers are used to translate JDBC methods to ODBC function calls. JDBC ODBC bridge drivers are used to connect database drivers to the database. Even after using JDBC for Java Enterprise application, we need an ODBC connection for connecting with the database. So JDBC ODBC bridge drivers are used to connect the same gap between JDBC and ODBC drivers. The bridge translates the object-oriented JDBC method call to the procedural ODBC function call. It makes the use of the sun.jdbc.odbc package. This package includes a native library to access ODBC characteristics. So it converts JDBC to ODBC and then after it processes the thing. So let's revise it what we have discussed before. So steps to connect the database, we have 7 steps mostly, like first importing the package, then after load the registers we have 2 steps in that, for the class name and to register the driver manager dot register manager, and then after creating the connection, and then after creating the statements, creating the statements, and then after the executing the query, and then after the closing the statements, closing the connection, automatically it will be closed, right? And here we have 4 components, that is JDBC API, JDBC driver, JDBC test suite, and the ODBC JDBC bridge connection. These are 4 components of JDBC. And let's see the conclusion of this presentation. JDBC stands for Java Database Connectivity and is a Java API application programming interface used to interact with the databases. So JDBC architecture is divided into 4 main components, like application, that is APM, JDBC API, driver manager, and JDBC drivers. The interfaces and classes in JDBC API are used to establish a connection and interact with the database. Thank you. I'm going to end my presentation.